Good evening, Chicago Rink Rats. I hope you are doing well. Andy Campbell here. We are here for Season 7, Episode 15 of the Chicago Blackhawks Rinkcast. We haven't been here in a little while. It's because the Blackhawks have been so much fun to follow in their race to the basement to potentially secure another top 3 NHL overall pick. But there are some interesting things going on with the Hawks lately that we're going to get into tonight. Most notably, the Connor Bedard is heating up, and he's fun to watch, and we all love watching him. We don't like watching the rest of the team so much, only the shifts that he's on the ice. And it's just going to kind of be like that for the rest of the season. But in the meantime, let's do a round. Eric Andrews is here. Eric, the card connoisseur, content editor of the Rink.com. Show us what you got, buddy. You got the card, the one you've been looking for. Do you have it on you right now?
Sure do. So you guys know, been talking about it. The Connor Bedard Young Guns came out last week, and I got one.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
He bought out the entire state of Northwest Indiana's hockey card collection to get it, but, you know.
Seemingly.
Yes, and on that note, then let's just go straight to Sean, who, clearly has a lot to say tonight, and is wearing green and is in his resident leprechaun uniform. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Sean Fitzgerald. How are you, my friend?
I am wonderful. Excited to be here. Excited. Hat a day still going well. We're at 70. We're doing all green hats this week. So we're going to do all green hats. So those of you who follow me on social media and on Twitter, I will do the 1 second a day at the end of every month. So if you don't follow me on the other 2 social medias, you'll get them all. This one was a gift from my wife from Valentine's Day in 2019.
It's a good one. So you're at day 70 of your hatathon or whatever. What do you call this thing that you're doing?
A hat a day.
Day.
So I wear a different hat of mine every day.
Wear a hat every day. Eat a pie for charity. Awesome. Yep. Sounds good. And Andrew Bard, who's a little under the weather, but congrats on your new gig, and we love seeing you. How are you doing, my friend? He's muted, and he doesn't even know. Yeah, timeout. There's a timeout.
Yeah, my boss all of a sudden decided to not work. Yeah, all good. Feel as crappy as a Seth Jones defensive shift, but otherwise all good.
4 assists last night. How about that? Seth Jones.
Yeah, that's an offensive shift, though.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Excellent point. And we want to welcome Jimmy O'Malley. Jimmy O'Malley's new to the rink. He's already put out a couple feature pieces. How are we doing tonight, Jimmy?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Just happy to be able to talk about my favorite hockey team in the whole wide world, the Chicago Blackhawks. And glad to be talking just some great fanatics. It's just a great opportunity to speak on the sport I love.
Yeah, excellent. Well, welcome. Glad to have you with us. And folks, if you haven't read his most recent piece on the trade deadline, you better jump on the Rink.com and take a look. It was edited today, and it is out there. It breaks down every single trade that happened in the NHL over the last few weeks and what it meant for each team, and then winners and losers. And we are going to talk about that on tonight's show, which is awesome. So what's been going on with the Hawks lately? So the Blackhawks have not been playing great hockey of late. They're still the worst team in the NHL. However, a 7-goal performance last night. Well, one's an empty netter. A hat trick from Colin Blackwell. 6 goals with a goalie in, which is a season high for them. And Connor Bedard is starting to heat up, folks. He has looked awesome lately. Shawnee, what are your thoughts on Connor Bedard lately? 3-point night last night, but get into his last few games. He's been great.
He has been great, and they keep pointing it out on the broadcast that he's become more of a complete player on the ice. He had some checks against the boards, the shot on the 5-on-3. We've seen it so many times this year, but I still can't get over how he could pull his wrists so close to his body and still snap it off. I thought that was really impressive. Even though he didn't get on the score sheet against Washington, he had 16 shots on goal, I believe.
And he was everywhere that night. He was all over the place.
So you knew he was going to be coming for it against Arizona. And he was involved in every time he was on the ice when he touched the puck. Every time you just hold your collective breath. I can't emphasize that enough. You just don't know what he's going to do. The bank shot in for the goal. He had several assists.
One.
He should have had a hat trick. But he was denied on the breakaway.
He had several assists. Dogs and cats living together.
Mass hysteria, I don't know. I'm running out of superlatives to describe this kid this season.
Sean likes him a lot.
A little bit. I get speechless, and that's hard to do.
Yeah, but Eric, he is in the minus. What are we going to do? We should trade him, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's not playing 25 minutes a night. He's a minus player. He's not that good.
No.
Again?
Right. Yeah. But what have you noticed in Bedard? I think the Washington game really, you started to see a little bit more glimpses of a more complete hockey player. Eric, were you feeling the same way?
Yeah, I mean, through the first part of the season, especially before the injury, it was kind of just a matter of if he was going to be producing offensively. You weren't expecting for him to really be contributing anywhere else on the ice. But he has been, a better player over 200 feet. Now, that's not to say he's Patrice Bergeron or Jonathan Taves. No one is saying that, of course, because he's not. But still, it's encouraging to see him being effective in other areas of the ice as well, while still also, of course, having that offensive production.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree. And Bardo, the other thing, too, is he's not afraid to lay the body on someone.
No, I mean, look, he's getting hit, and he's not afraid to lay the wood. So, I mean, he's going to need to. I mean, he'll fill out, his body will fill out a little bit over time. But going back to what we were saying about him being more of a complete player, one of the things that I liked is if you look at the way Stu Grimson broke down how the Hawks gave up that goal to start, I think it was to start the second period, and he was in the right position to start. So right there, you could see like he was staying right in center ice defensively. Then he lost him. So there's it's like he's halfway there. But, it's like he'll learn that over time and how to complete the play and all that other stuff. But yeah, 100% agree with everybody is that he's really well on his way. He's wise beyond his years, and it's really amazing he's only 18.
Yeah,
one thing with that.
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I was just going to say one thing with that, too. I mean, yes, he kind of lost his player a little bit on that goal, but let's not forget that it was essentially a 2-on-1, and Seth Jones decided to leave the middle of the ice to go pinch on the guy that was on the boards and left whoever, I don't remember who it was, I think it was Keller, just a clear lane to the net.
So even if Seth Jones wasn't playing, I'd blame him. So
yeah,
I mean, Seth Orr. Let's get it right, boys. Seth Orr is obviously a defensive specialist, and we all know and love, especially when he, just swipes the puck right to an Arizona offensive forward in his own zone, and then they put
seems
it
to
back
be missing
in
the net quite a bit these days too. Although Seth Jones did it, he had a good game last night. He's just not 9.5 million good. Jimmy, question for you. The NHL.com today released an article where their writers suggested that as of today, Connor Bedard is leading the Calder race. Do you agree, and why?
Do I need an argument? I mean, obviously.
No, but it's more fun if you get heated up about this stuff.
It's Connor Bedard, and then it's everyone else. Well, no, it's Connor Bedard, that defenseman from Minnesota that everyone seems to know and love, and then
he won't even say his name.
Won't even say his name.
No, I'm not going to give the talking heads on Twitter and online the benefit of even saying his name, because he's productive on Minnesota. I'm going to give him credit for that. But Bedard I haven't seen a rookie like Bedard since McDavid, and I mean that. It's just no one touches him as an 18-year-old. It's beyond impressive, and we were talking about this, this just now. We're gushing over him. Like, this kid is unbelievably confident with the puck. And one thing that I've also noticed too is that his teammates are starting to figure out how he passes the puck. That goal that Tyler Johnson had, that's not a goal Tyler Johnson scores at the beginning of the season, because he's not expecting that pass, because he's not expecting Bedard to be that good. Now he knows, he keeps that stick on the ice, he gets that goal, because now his teammates are realizing, this kid is not just a good 18-year-old. He's a good NHL player, period. We can trust him. We can treat him like, a pro's pro, because at this point with his skill, he simply is.
Yeah. 46 points in 51 games played, 17 games left. It is conceivable that he could go on a run and end up being a point per game player on the lowest scoring team in the NHL as an 18-year-old. Yeah. And then that's enough. If that happens, that's enough. I mean, that's plenty of credibility to win the Calder. And it's interesting, and I am going to get into this Faber stuff a little bit, but Brock Faber, Minnesota, hell of a season. But it's almost as if now the people that are in favor of Faber are just trying to discredit Bedard by going with plus minus is, oh my gosh, but Faber's plus minus is so good. Brock Faber's plus minus is 12th amongst active rookies right now. So I don't really know where that argument sticks. In minutes and all that stuff. I mean, it's great. But anyway, to what we're talking about right now, he is the front runner. I think he's going to walk away with this thing. And also, I mean, the one thing, he might be the reason the Blackhawks don't finish last. And on that, I mean, do we think that the Hawks are actually going to finish last? The thing to think about is that 6 of their next 9 hockey games are against teams that are not playoff bound. And 2 of those are Anaheim, 2 of those are San Jose. Bedard could go off, and then all of a sudden the Hawks aren't in the basement. Eric, do you think the Hawks will finish in the cellar, or do you think they're going to finish ahead of San Jose?
Well, I mean, I think it's definitely a 2-team race between those two. I think the Ducks are in third last, and they're like 10 points ahead of both of them. So, I mean, it's really the Hawks and the Sharks at this point. But give a quick shout out to Jimmy. In your piece, you were making note of, and this is a really good point, that keep in mind, San Jose just traded away Tomas Hertl and Anthony Duclair. So that's 2 big offensive pieces that now they just took off of their roster.
Yeah, they're not going to win.
So they're going to be even worse than they have been and produce less. So, I mean, it's entirely conceivable that the Sharks could only win another 2 or 3 games the rest of the season. So, I mean, it's hard to say, but I would, to be, I guess, conservative with it, I would expect the Hawks will finish in 31st place.
Yep. Bardo, you feeling similarly?
Look, last year without Bedard, we thought the Hawks, after they stripped their team of Kane and among others, we thought that they were going to finish with the worst record, and they didn't. So right. I think it's certainly still on the table that they could finish with the worst record. It's certainly possible. You never know what kind of spark a team would get. I'm not saying they're going to go out and win 8 in a row, but they could put together some strong efforts and get a point here, point there. That stuff adds up. So, but look, I mean, looking at it on paper, yeah, San Jose should be the worst team in the league for sure. Yeah. But you never know in this situation. Plus, we know with the lottery that having the worst record doesn't guarantee you anything. So,
right. Yep. And I guess the other thing too is, their April schedule, they go the Islanders, Dallas, Minnesota, St. Louis, Nashville, Carolina, Vegas, and the Kings. That's tough.
Yeah,
for the Hawks, that's tough. Now, I mean, it could be for that last week or so with Carolina, Vegas, and the Kings. They might be resting guys. That's possible too, but we don't know. But at the same time, Sean, everyone's talking about Macklin Celebrini. The Hawks still could have a shot at this guy. Are they doomed if they don't? I know we've kind of touched base on this before, but for any of our new viewers out there,
I don't think they're not doomed. No, because I believe even if they don't finish with the worst record, you still are only you're guaranteed you can only fall 2 spots. I believe is the rule.
Yeah,
yeah. So they can still get Lechinov from Michigan State, who we're all high on, the defenseman.
Yep, that's the guy.
And he's a right-handed shot, I believe, which they don't have many of them in their system.
They desperately need that.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about that. I think they do have a chance, though, to finish last. They play 9 games out of their last 17 on the road. And as we've seen, they've only won 1 out of their last 22 games on the road. So I'm going to say that's 9 losses right there. And then, like you mentioned, Carolina's at home. And Carolina's at home. And the Kings are at home. So it's theoretically they could lose, what are we looking at, 11 of their last 17? I'm not saying San Jose it's going to be any better, but back to Macklin Celebrini. If we don't get this draft is not like last year's where Connor Bedard was the ultimate get. Not saying that Leo Carlson is a slouch or anything, but clearly Bedard is the number one piece. This year, it's not as top heavy as it was last year. The Lechinov, Macklin Celebrini, all those guys, they're good players, but I don't think they're franchise-changing players.
Yep. Agree with all that. And Celebrini obviously would be great. The consensus number 1 overall. If you have one, take him.
Right.
At the same time, there are anywhere between 1 and 5, as we've discussed before. They're still going to get a hell of a hockey player. And, we're always talking about Levshinov over here, and, he can bring it. Let's talk a little bit about, some of the moves they made. Jimmy, you're a big trade guy. Anthony Beauvillier, which we are all going to remember his era in Chicago very fondly. What a wonderful long tenure, and everyone was crushed when he was traded. He's on the go, or he's gone back to Nashville to play with to play for Barry Trotz. 5th round pick comes back. I know you don't want to entertain the Twitterverse out there, but that 5th round pick that they gave up to get him is now a lower 5th round pick. Is anyone worse for wear here? Anyone the wiser?
Not really. I mean, in a vacuum, you don't want to drop in the draft for a guy that doesn't produce.
Mm-hmm.
So in the vacuum, I guess it's not great. But I mentioned this in our group chat earlier. Beauvillier was coming off a career season. He looked unbelievably good with Vancouver last year after being traded from the New York Islanders.
Yeah.
He was a buy low candidate at the 5th round. And at the deadline, with inconsistencies and a little bit of injury trouble, it was best to just cut your losses. And one thing about this trade that I will give Kyle Davidson a lot of credit for, the previous regime would have just given in to the sunken cost fallacy and be like, oh crap, we gave up a 5th round pick for this guy. We got to re-sign him to justify it. Davidson just saw the writing on the wall and went, you know what? It didn't work out. Trades don't work out. That happens. I'll get back a 5th and we'll live with it. And as Eric has pointed out multiple times, it's just when you get past the midway point of the 2nd round, it really is just a crapshoot.
Yeah.
You live with it. You move down 12 spots in the 5th. It's not like moving 12 spots in the 1st or 2nd. You live with it.
Yeah. I mean, do your homework, but it is what it is at that point.
Yeah. You're not going to
The only reason he was acquired was to hit the floor. I had to point that out to people on Twitter that the only reason he was acquired was to hit the floor because Anthony Ciu was hurt and Perry was gone. Taylor Hall was hurt.
Taylor Hall kept falling down, and finally something happened. It's just
Tripped over the blue line.
What are you going to do? So yeah, I agree with that. And then the other move, Boris Kachuk was waived, and then who claimed him again? I can't even remember. Ottawa. Okay. Well, Boris, thank you for your time. See, I knew it. I knew that trade was a bad trade. Everyone in Chicago, we should have kept Hagel, man. So yeah, Boris Kachuk, another of the fabric of the wow, what a wonderful era in Chicago. My favorite Boris Kachuk moment was his soundbite when Connor Bedard got hurt, when everyone was interviewed and was like, "Yeah, it wasn't a bad hit. He kind of just skated into it." And Kachuk was like, "Yeah, it was dirty. We're mad." And everyone was like, "What?" So, I don't know if anyone remembers that. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
That's about all you need.
Yeah. So the Michigan Wolverines moved on in the Big Ten tournament, eliminating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which I love and Sean hates.
Yep.
But at the same time, a new name, or not, well, an old name, actually. Seth Jones is saying, thank goodness there's another Stan Bowman era talent that is sticking around here. Landon Slaggert, who was a 2020 draft pick or 2019 draft pick?
He was a 2020 third rounder.
2020 third round pick, 4-year varsity member at Notre Dame, signed with the Blackhawks. Good signing. He had a 20-goal season at Notre Dame. Eric, talk to us about your feelings about this signing. It sounds like we might see Landon Slaggert in the next game. He's not doing a stint in Rock Vegas, is he?
No, he's staying with the Hawks, but it sounds like they want him to get some practices under his feet and get some film and stuff first. So I don't think he'll be in the lineup until later this week. But I mean, yeah, it's a guy that should be able to establish himself as an NHL player. I think a lot of Blackhawks fans have gotten a little bit ahead of themselves seeing the production he had this season at Notre Dame and think that he is going to be a producer at the NHL level. And that's just not the game that he plays. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is one of those guys that is a prototypical third or fourth liner, probably a fourth liner. He's an energy guy, can do a little bit of everything, but he's not going to go out there and score 20 or 30 goals for you. It's just not going to happen. And that's okay. So if you have realistic expectations for him, yep, he can have a nice little impact on the team and, probably carve out a decent career for himself, but he's not a guy that's going to move the needle.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a fourth line player.
Right.
For the majority of his NHL career. Bardo, your thoughts on this move and what are you hoping for, I guess, out of this? Like what's best case scenario for Slaggert here?
I mean, I think you just hope that he's a responsible role player. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, what you hope for, 40 goals and be the permanent left wing for Bedard, but we know that's not going to happen. But yeah, I mean, looking at his game, I mean, in college and what it's likely going to translate to in the NHL is really what Eric said, is really like a fourth line energy guy, who could do a little bit of everything. My hope is that he could also, kill penalties, which would be a nice addition as well. But yeah, I mean, that's all I'm expecting at best, is a role player who could just come in and just contribute every night and be someone who's noticeable and doesn't make mistakes. That's it.
Yeah. Shawnee, you're a Golden Domer. Are you excited about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited in the sense that he's going to play for the Blackhawks and he's going to hopefully fill a role in the bottom six. But as far as like my dreams of him being like Connor Bedard's left wings, there's no such thing. I'm excited. He's a really character kid. There was a story by Notre Dame that apparently he got the puck and presented it to the Michigan captain after they beat him, saved the puck for his last game and gave it to him afterwards. So that was pretty cool. And he went back to Notre Dame this year to play with his younger brother. Like his younger brother was a freshman there. So he went back to play with him. He worked on his game a lot. I mean, he was very disappointed in his goal scoring ability last year. He only had 7 goals. This year he's up to 20. So he really worked on that. Scott Powers did a piece on the 7th on him and just how him and Mark Eaton would have email conversations and video breakdowns of what he needed to work on, and he really focused on that. I just hope he plays well enough to just be a fourth line guy, third or fourth line guy, because you need those guys. You need them cheap, younger contracts where you can keep cycling through, because that's what good teams do. That's how you sustain success. You have your stars, you pay them, and you cycle through your bottom six. As long as they keep doing that, I think it'll be fine.
I will add that I also like the fact you mentioned that he was a captain. That shows to me maturity, and so I like adding that element there.
He doesn't seem like he's gonna just be a good guy in the room.
When you're a fourth line guy too, it's when that's your projectability, going back for a fourth year of NCAA hockey is not a bad thing. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. He doesn't need to sign right away. Jimmy, what's the deal with his contract and what does that mean for this spring? Does that burn an entry year, or is that not enough games, or how does that whole operation work? What did he sign for?
Let's see. Landon Slaggert.
What did he sign?
So he signed for 2 years.
Here, 2
years, because he's
under $1 million AAV. It's 900 and some thousand.
It's 912. So he didn't sign for the max, 2 years. But if he
it's
plays,
a 1.2 year contract.
Exactly, Bardo. It's a 1.2 year contract. Because after you're the age of 21, I think the max you can sign for is 2 years as an ELC.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I just knew that. So sorry, Jimmy.
No, you're good. I didn't know it off the top of my head, so I appreciate the help.
Okay. So then does that mean that he becomes an RFA after next season?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Does he become an RFA after next season then? After the 24-25 season?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I delayed?
Yes.
Is my internet the problem? So it's yep to a few different questions I just asked. Awesome. All right. Can anyone out there hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's move on anyway. All right. Landon Slaggert looking good. Let's move on to the trade deadline. Let's talk about Jimmy's article real quick. Or not real quick. Let's talk about it for a while. Winners and losers. Jimmy, I want you to start us off. I'm gonna log in and log back out because I think it's my.
All right, Jimmy, take it away.
Yeah,
Winners and
Jimmy,
losers
go with
from the trade deadline.
your winner.
All right. I don't love signing winners, especially the day of the deadline, because there's so many moving parts. But when I think of winners that bought, my mind goes straight to three teams. I think of the Vegas Golden Knights, I think of the Colorado Avalanche, and I think of the Florida Panthers. I like getting Tomas Hertl for a former first-round pick and a 2025 first-round pick. Not only getting him, having San Jose retain salary, and then getting 2 additional third-round picks, it really does feel like a robbery. This guy is under control until 2029, 2030. So I don't understand personally. I don't understand the philosophy here for San Jose. You're trading in division with a rival, and you're giving him 8 years of control for probably what is your most productive player at this point for 2 first-round picks. At best, that 2025, I think Vegas will probably be competing still by then, so that's probably early 20s at best. I think Vegas getting him and then Noah Hannafin and Anthony Mantha, just fantastic stuff. I mentioned in my article, when in Vegas, you got to gamble, and Vegas just gambles. They buy high, and it worked last year. And I know people are going to complain about LTIR. If it's not against the rules, it's not against the rules. If you have a problem with it, take it up with the NHL CBA. So, like, they're taking advantage of the fact that, hey, Mark Stone has a lacerated kidney. Could he be back for the playoffs?
Spleen,
Maybe.
but yeah.
Spleen. That's right. I apologize. So it's like, if he comes back from the playoffs, that's a devastating injury to come back from. He might not even be 100% if he plays. So, of course, you got to get guys to fill in the Mark Stone role. You got to get your Manthas, your Hurdles, your Hannafins. You got to go for it. Vegas has traded, I think, since they came into the league, they have traded their first-round pick or the player that was their first-round pick every year except 2020. And the proof is in the pudding. They're winning. Now we can go to other winners. I mean, Avalanche. I mentioned they bought in 2 trades and somehow freed up cap space. They traded for Sean Walker, freed up cap space and moving Johansson. And they traded for Casey Milstead and got a contract that was less than Bowen Byram's. Buying in 2 trades and somehow relieving yourself of cap is really impressive. You know, Ryan Johansson had no place on this team, and it was clear he had to go. And then you got Casey Milstead, the guy that can come in and fill the role that you thought Ryan Johansson was going to fill. Incredible. And then the next day, who they get? A couple bottom 6 wingers that are both extremely physical. What were their names? I'm looking back through my article real quick.
Wait, are you talking? No, not Sam Carrick, right? Or is that
No, he went to Edmonton.
Edmonton. That's all right. Okay.
Edmonton.
Former Blackhawks legend Sam Carrick.
Sam, of course. Oh, it was Ford, Duhaime, and Trennan.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those players combined 300 hits on the season. So you know what they wanted from both of those guys: physical bottom 6 forwards that can help you in the playoffs. So they ended this deadline getting Sean Walker, Casey Milstead, Duhaime, and Trennan, and gave up. I think they only gave up 1 first-round pick in this. I believe it was the Walker trade. I believe it was the Walker trade.
That sounds right.
Yes, it was a Walker trade. It was top 10 protected. So, yeah, Colorado did very well. And my last winner, Florida, I mean, not only one really big one, in my opinion, in Tarasenko, but getting Okposo and Hellberg for injury depth. I always like teams that understand that, hey, late in the season, especially in the playoffs, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have to get guys that can step in, and Okposo and Hellberg can do that for you. So those are my winners that bought. It's hard to determine winners that sold, because for winners that sold, you have to wait years to really figure out. Yeah. But I would say winners that sold, off the top of my head, I would say Anaheim did really well. I think they did really well in the Henry trade. I think that they're one of my top winners, and they helped themselves by allowing themselves to tank for the rest of the season. And man, there weren't a ton of like pure sellers. There were a lot of teams that moved parts and then brought in parts at the same time. Like Minnesota was a good example of those teams.
You don't think Calgary was a pure seller?
Oh, Calgary, yes.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head. Yeah, that was a good one. They bought pretty well. They got really good value for Tanev and Hannafin, and then they brought in a defensive prospect to just kind of like see if he can play. I thought they bid pretty well. In terms of losers, my top loser this time was Toronto. I thought Toronto just didn't go 100%. They got, I can never say his name, Libishkin, their former defenseman.
Is it Edmonds they got in the back too?
Yeah, Edmondson or
Edmondson, and then
Edmonds, center fielder.
Yeah, former Cub Cardinal Angel.
Yeah, there you go. No, but Edmondson is, I mean, he's something they need. But yeah, other than that, like you said, Jimmy, a little underwhelming.
Yeah, and especially with teams like Carolina and the New York Rangers and Florida Panthers buying really well. When it comes down to making it deep in the playoffs, the teams that make it far usually are the teams that are willing to pay the higher price.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sure, you got a couple of defensive defensemen, but Carolina got Gensel, Florida got Tarasenko.
Yeah,
Rangers got Wenberg and Roslovic. Like, it doesn't really compare. That they really disappointed me. And two losers of this trade deadline, both sellers. One of them I kind of mentioned, San Jose. You didn't get near enough for Hertl, and Duclair was okay. They got a little bit back, and the only thing I think they did okay was acquiring Vanacek with another year under his contract next year. Kind of like, oh, okay, he's coming off injured reserve, maybe a change in scenery. We have a goaltender going into next season. Perhaps he can refine form that he had last season, that when he was part of a playoff team. But as of now, they're a loser. And another one, Columbus. I thought getting rid of, I believe his name is Pecky, to the Boston Bruins, a 25-year-old defenseman with 2 years of control for a failed prospect from 2015 and a third-round pick, hated the deal. Mm-hmm. Especially with a team with Columbus. They just had so much turmoil coming into the season, hiring Babcock and then just constantly falling off.
I forgot. I forgot Babcock. I think it was this year.
Hired Babcock.
Oh my God, that's how long ago it was.
I feel like for Columbus, they wish it was in the Middle Ages, because that was just a dark couple weeks. But yeah, it's just, this is a team in turmoil, and you're moving on from a defender with 2 more years of control for a third-round pick and a 27-year-old failed first-round pick. What are you doing here, man? So
they don't know what they're doing. They haven't known.
They really don't. I mean, we've seen how well they've handled their prospects, and Fantilli and Juracek, I believe is his name. I made a tweet about this a while back. The NHL fans should be thanking their lucky stars that the Blackhawks got Bedard, because if he was on Columbus, they'd somehow ruin the kid.
That's true.
Yeah, I would actually, though. I know Boston did get Pete, but I'd put them in the disappointing trade deadline.
Yeah, they didn't trade one of their goalies. Why didn't they trade Ullmark?
Well, because Ullmark, apparently there was a rumor that there was a deal that they were working on with Ullmark that he shot down for geographical reasons, is what it was.
It was to the Kings, if I remember correctly.
Meaning he didn't want to be more than 2 feet away from Jeremy Swayman.
Yeah, if he's not within hugging range, he can't do it.
Yeah, and he said no to go to the Kings. Wow, I mean, that's okay. I mean, the Kings are in it.
The Kings were actually one of my losers, because they just sat in their hands and did nothing.
Right.
So
Vancouver is my loser. They did the same thing. They did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, apparently they were
Phil Kessel after they worked him out.
Traded Beauvillier a while ago. Just saying.
Yeah, I think they're having buyer's remorse with getting Lindholm.
Yeah,
he hasn't worked out, and I think that gave him cold feet.
Yeah, there were rumors that he was going to be on the move in some sort of 3-team trade.
Yeah, I saw something. It was like, Gensel to Vancouver, Lindholm to Boston, and then Boston sends
DeBrusque, I think.
DeBrusque, yeah. DeBrusque.
Well, that's another one. Now the Bruins are going to lose DeBrusque for nothing next year.
Mhm.
I mean, they really, and they've got no draft capital. So their only hope for making a decent trade was that Ullmark would waive, and he won't do it. So that was kind of.
I mean, they could trade him in the offseason still, right? He's still under contract.
Ullmark, yeah, but he's got to wait. It's up to him.
Yeah,
You know, it's his choice. I mean, we talked about that all last year with our two guys, with Taves and Kane.
yeah, that's true.
You know, when you give them the NMCs, they got to say yes to whatever you throw in front of them. You know, Boston's such an enigma right now. You know, they're down 3-0 to St. Louis right now. Just make that 4.
Ooh.
Didn't they get smoked the other day too? No.
I mean, they go on these tears where they win 2 games and they're hot and they beat really tough opponents. Everyone's like, all right, here we go. And then they do what they are doing tonight. So
I don't know if you saw on Twitter, the Kevin Hayes scored against the Bruins tonight, and then he pointed his finger up to the sky, obviously
awesome.
as his brother,
homage to his brother, so former Bruin. So it was a good moment.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, quickly, I do want to talk about Matt Rempe, and sorry, folks, that my internet failed and there was a goofy part of the night that Sean enjoyed more than anyone, because normally he's the one whose internet fails.
Hey, Eric has been on that train lately. It hasn't been me. It's been Eric.
That's
lately.
true.
That's true. That's fair. So we're all guilty of that. But before we get to Rempe, now let's do a post-deadline who comes out of the East and who comes out of the West. We did this a few sessions ago. But now that the deadlines happen, let's make our bold predictions of who are our 2 Stanley Cup finals from the East and from the West. Who wants to go first? Bardo does.
San Jose and
Arizona.
Columbus.
Dang,
I'm going to say I'm actually my honest assessment is going to be. I'm going to say it's Carolina.
Ooh.
I ride them every year, and they always fuck me. And then
That's usually what happens.
R-rated show.
Exactly. And then I would say in the West,
He's sick.
I'm still gonna say Dallas.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
That's a good take. What about you, Eric?
Quiet deadline, but I think sometimes the best trades are the ones you don't make. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, they went early. You know, they went before the deadline. You know, they made a pretty good move. I mean, that's a pretty quality player they picked up. So the Tanev. Eric, what do you think? Who do you got?
I believe last time we did this, I said Florida and Dallas, and I would have a hard time going away from that. I think both of those teams are just so strong right now, and like we have just said over the last little while, have further added to their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's great just adding good players, but what really makes a difference with these types of moves is then that slots in everybody else where they need to be as well. So it's really making your team much deeper than if it's not just adding one piece. It's almost kind of like a, the type of thing where now everybody's slotted in well, so everybody's going to play better. So yeah, I think that those two teams are probably still the favorite out of each conference. If I was going to go with kind of some off-the-board picks, I, of course, am a big Hurricanes guy. I definitely think that the trades that they made could potentially be very beneficial. Obviously, Jake Gensel is known as a playoff performer, so hopefully that'll work out. And, I mean, somehow if Evgeny Kuznetsov can be kind of his old self.
You hear how he did that, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know how Evgeny Kuznetsov. I can say that one.
Okay, good. Okay.
But if he can get back to his old self or even close to it, that's a very, very solid pickup for them.
Yeah.
So they could be kind of that team where, I mean, like Bard said, it's a team that has been in the conversation for a number of years now, but it's almost getting to the point where people are starting to overlook them because they haven't taken that last step.
Yeah.
So that's a team that I could see doing it. And then, I mean, you can never count out Vegas, especially with the moves that they made.
Got it. So who are your two picks then?
Florida and Dallas, I'll stick
You're going to
with.
stick with it? You're going to stick with it. Okay.
Yep.
Jimmy, what say you?
Man, post deadline, I'm going to go with what I think was the most underrated move for this team coming out of the West. I actually have Edmonton. I really like getting Henrique and Carrick. And the one thing I really like about both of them, A, face-off wins, B, defensive zone start percentage. I added that in my trade analysis because these guys are the perfect just two-way centers that a defensive a team that wants to make a deep run needs. Now, of course, there's always questions about goaltending for them. It's been basically since they really started competing.
Yeah.
But I really like that trade for Henrique and Carrick. I think that puts their center depth over the top. I can't think of a better center team than Edmonton's right now. And then out of the East, I gotta go Florida. I mean, the best team in the East gets better. Tarasenko, Okposo, Hellberg. I mean, this team didn't need to add much.
So loaded.
Yeah, but they did. They did in the right ways. And it's hard to bet against a team wanting to get back and take vengeance for last year. So Edmonton and Florida, those are my two.
I like it. Shawnee.
I'm gonna go with the Colorado Avalanche out of the West. I think they adding Middlestad was a good move for them, and I think their goaltending's been really good, and they're just so talented. I can't see them not going back. So I'm going to go with the Colorado Avalanche, and then I'll stick with Florida. I think everybody's going to go with Florida. I'm going with Florida out of the East, but the Colorado Avalanche are my pick out of the West.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, the kind of year that McKinnon's having. I mean, he is a man possessed. I certainly get that. I want to go with the Avalanche too, but I don't know. I don't see Middlestad as no Landeskog. At least not in my mind. And I don't think Colorado's really been the same since they lost Landeskog, who's been sidelined for 160 straight games.
Yep.
And with does he even have a timetable anymore? I don't know.
No, I haven't seen anything since earlier this year.
It's very sad. Of a hockey player. I went with Dallas and Toronto before the deadline, and I'm going to retract on my Toronto statement now that I created this conversation so I could have a take back. I want to make that clear to try to save my credibility. I'm going to stay with Dallas, and I'm going to go the Carolina Hurricanes because, like Bardo, I've been putting me chips on them for a while, and it hasn't landed well. That's the word that I use to describe that. And but I think that their pickups could make a huge difference, and they just always seem to be that team that is laying in the weeds that no one's paying attention to. And I think this might be the time where they finally creep up. So I am going Dallas and Carolina.
I think one thing too with the Canes, I mean, we know it's a very solid defensive team, and even though the goaltending is kind of a rotating question mark, they still get solid goaltending regardless of kind of where it comes from at any given point in time. But their issue in the playoffs has always been the offensive production will just dry up at the worst time.
Yeah.
So again, they clearly address that by going out and getting a known, proven scorer in Jake Gensel. So hopefully for them, that does change the narrative.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And their blue line, I mean, their top four are as good as anyone else in the league. And then Orlov is their fifth defenseman right now. So, I mean, you have Slavin and Burns, obviously Eric, big Slavin guy. But yeah, they've got some good weapons. Should be fun. Thank you, Jimmy, for all the trade analysis and for all of our viewers out there. For those that are listening, Jimmy, that's a big plus, breaking all those things down. So if you haven't read his article, folks, get on the rink.com and read it. Check Twitter as well, as we've been tweeting it and retweeting it like crazy. Want to talk just as we finish up tonight about Matt Rempe. the new, or is it Rempe?
Rempe.
Rempe. Good. I got it right the first time, Sean.
Sound
So
like
Matt
Stanford.
Rempe, who was, as we were about to talk about him, was just ejected, was just given a game misconduct for elbowing moments ago. So he will not be fighting Lucas McDermott tonight. But I just wanted this is taking us kind of back to an era of hockey that was missing for a little while. And so all of a sudden the New York Rangers Broadway has the toughest cat in the hockey jungle right now. And this guy explodes on the scene. He comes in. He has a ton of energy. He's not afraid to drop him with anyone. And every single game that he has, he's like a marked man. Where in warm-ups, what was it last week? When it was Toronto and New York on Hockey Night in Canada, it's like, all right, it's going to be Reeves and Rempe. Like, this is going to happen. It happened later in the game. Tonight's game, everyone's thinking about McDermott fighting him. Lucas McDermott, who was picked up by the Devils right around March 1st because they didn't want Rempe running wild all over them. Turns out it still happened tonight. But I don't know. Are we going back to kind of a bygone era in hockey? And does a lot of it depend on how far the Rangers go in the postseason? Bardo, with a lot of your New York, you got a lot of New York ties and you're always pretty plugged into the New York scene. How do you feel about what's going on here?
He's basically John Scott 2.0. He's Bufflin with much less skill. He's a big guy that's going to just throw his body around and bring energy. If they think that this is the key for them winning the playoffs, it's not going to make a difference. I mean, honestly, this guy is going to probably take a stupid penalty or two, just like he did tonight. I mean, I don't know what it's going to do with the overall era of hockey. I don't think that's going to change because we've seen this movie before. I mean, these 6'7", 6'8" guys that are physical come every, so often, and then they kind of flame out. So, what does he do that's so special that's going to sustain itself for a long time? Could he be, another Ryan Reeves with less skill? Sure, maybe. I mean, if that's what they want for their fourth line, then God bless them. But I don't think he's going to really make a difference to winning a cup or not. So,
yeah. So you think the flame's going to go out on this one?
Flame out. Let's not go crazy here. I get it that he's become like a cult following. Ooh. His nickname around here is the Rempire State Building. It's all fun. Good. Yeah, it's all fun and games, whatever, and it's nice for the regular season. When every other game you're playing, the Ottawas and the San Jose's, but. When you play smarter teams in the playoffs, you have to play smart. And this kid, remember, is a rookie. And he's a rookie goon. And those guys tend to get exposed very, very easily. They'll find a way, and they'll find him when he's on the ice to agitate him and make him do something stupid.
Yeah.
Side note, if you guys haven't seen the hit, it's blatant, and it's bad. Yeah.
Blatant.
Like he literally
his elbow
raises
right out.
He sticks his elbow right out.
Yeah, well, then my entire argument for Matt Rempe just went down the drain with one bad hockey play. Because, I mean, I was literally just going to say, well, this is a guy that, comes into every game, hasn't really cheap shot at anyone, just plays hard and is ready to go with anybody. And I was going to say that this isn't a Matt Cook. This isn't a Sean Avery type situation. And now he goes and does something like that. And that's the end of that argument.
It was only a matter of time. We knew that.
Well, clearly. I mean, there's certainly entertainment value, and I don't know. I mean, it does take away the attention from Trouba. I mean, Trouba does a lot of stupid things, and people are going to try to take a run at Trouba. No one will do that anymore.
Well, now he's out for a while. He's hurt, so who knows?
So I don't know. Eric, you feeling similarly about this whole thing, Rempe?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of the sentiments. As far as the playoffs, I mean, I wouldn't even put him in the lineup in the playoffs. There's no need for that. In the playoffs, you're just wasting a forward spot. And when every game means so much, you just can't afford to have a guy that isn't really providing anything other than that. And if that's all he's doing and he's taking a bad penalty every night, like you were saying, Bardo, then, I mean, it's a liability for your team come the playoffs. So I don't even think that he'll be in the lineup for the Rangers come playoff time.
Yeah, could be. Jimmy, you think he'll be in the lineup, or do you think this is just a phase that everyone's going through for post All-Star break entertainment value, and we're just,
It really just feels like a phase. It's exciting for Twitter and Instagram, like, oh, look at this guy, his third fight in like 4 games as a rookie. But it's like shooting half court shots and hope you make them every time. It's unsustainable. This has no value, for teams that want to compete, especially if they're going to play teams in the playoffs like Carolina and Florida, and Tampa, teams that just have so much discipline and are just so much smarter, even on the 3rd and 4th line. He doesn't have value outside of just being physical. And another thing too about being physical is it works both ways. Like, you can be physical, but you can really fire up the other team. It's like throwing a fastball across the chin in baseball. Like, oh, I just fired up the entire other team, and they're gonna like come out and like play motivated. So sure, you could motivate your own team by winning a big fight, rah rah. But you can also wake up that other team and just be like, oh, great, right. Now I've just ruined all this momentum that my team has had.
Right. Yeah. So
discipline is so big in the playoffs, and it's like so easy to bait some of these like young guys that are walk around and they think they're going to bully players. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
good call, everybody. Yeah.
A 5-minute major makes the Sharks advance in the playoffs over the Knights after injuring Logan Couture. 3 goals in a 5-minute penalty. And that was game 7?
Yep.
The playoff. Like, you can't have that happen.
We can't do that. No, it's really bad. So anyway, God, New York, the Rangers are always interesting for whatever reason. I mean, they get hot, people and then they find a way to just not do something right, and then they just phase out. I mean, it's just
Rangers are going to Ranger.
Yeah,
I blame coaching. I think they have too much natural talent on the team that a coach of worth half his salt is going to figure out how to make lines and create strategies for that. I
mean, Zibanejad doesn't have an even strength goal in 30 games.
He got one tonight. That was his first one.
So that was it. He got it tonight. Yep. All right. So again, man, I gotta watch games before I talk here.
That's been the Rangers' issue for years, is that their 5-on-5 play is terrible.
Yeah.
So it's like that's where they get exposed a lot of times in the playoffs. So,
and talk about getting exposed in the playoffs. Their coach is Pete Laviolette. He's the king of getting a team to the playoffs and just not doing anything in the
fizzling.
Yeah. Interesting. What's another? He's like Peter DeBoer. Just a guy that just doesn't get his team further than maybe 2nd round because we got
another Peter. We've gotten 2. We got another 3rd Peter we can throw under the bus here.
I don't want to throw cheap shots quite yet.
I don't know. That'll take me a while to think of another Peter. Yeah. Well, any other parting shots, lads, shout-outs, things to keep an eye on moving forward? Eric, the card game, you mentioned the Bedard value is going down a little bit day by day.
Yep. Yeah, just if you're looking for one, wait it out. They're going down. They'll settle down, so be patient.
Got it. Any other shout-outs, fellas? St. Patty's Day shout-out, Shawnee? I'm sure you got something.
Well, the Big Ten tournament is this weekend, and there's going to be some good matchups in that. I believe Michigan's playing Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, Michigan State.
Michigan State, that's really good hockey.
Those are going to be some good hockey games. So if you have Big Ten Plus, which most people don't, but if you do, you can watch some of those games. Because for whatever reason,
three big Blackhawk names in that Michigan-Minnesota series. So look out for
Saturday.
Yeah. Look out for Nazar Rinzel and Oliver Moore. Should be really, really fun. All right, folks. Well, then that'll do it for tonight. Thank you so very much, Bardo. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
And Jimmy, welcome aboard and awesome analysis tonight. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
And go Hawks. The Hawks are in Chicago tomorrow night against the Anaheim Ducks. Anaheim Ducks at 7:30. Let's hope for a Bedard show. Let's hope he can put up more and more points to put this Calder to bed so we can stop worrying about the only thing to worry about in Hawkville right now because there's nothing else going on.
Or like pretending to worry. Let's be real.
Yeah, you're right. It's all right. He's got it. He's got it. All right, folks. Well, hey, everyone. Have a good night. On behalf of my colleagues, Jimmy, the Bardo, Eric Andrews, Sean Fitzgerald, I'm Andy Campbell. Take care, and we'll see you next time.